Welcome to Adventures in Solitaire.
Today we'll be discussing the Four Against Darkness supplement, Concise Collection of Classes. So, as always, what is the Concise Collection of Classes? Well, the Concise Collection of Classes is primarily a character or class supplement for Four Against Darkness. There are 9 new characters or classes, and with the exception of 2 of the classes, they are not level dependent. The collection also includes 6 Dwarven subclasses that you can choose from, so for those of you who love dwarves, this will likely be a must-buy for you. We'll cover these in further detail later. Also included are new weapons, a total of 2, unless you count crafted single-use weapons like bombs and things like that. There are also an additional 15 expert level skills for old and new classes alike. And last but not least, includes patrons, which are individuals or organizations that will help your party, but at a cost. So let's talk about the core of the book, the classes. The Concise Collection of Classes has added the following classes: Assassin, Fire Elf, Harlequin, Lutin, Marksman, Monk, Ogre Mercenary, Elder, and Wilderness Survival Guide. Each class has a little bit of a history that goes along with their attributes and abilities to help with thematic immersion. So let's talk about those specific classes. The Assassin is our first new class. The Assassin adds full level bonus to any weapon type when attacking. The Assassin also has the ability to attempt to sneak into the shadows, and I do mean to attempt, because it can fail and invite a free attack by the enemy. If it's able to sneak into the shadows, it gets the ability to do triple damage on the next combat round. So it's like having a free attack every other turn. Not too bad, assuming you don't fail your rolls, of course. They also cannot use shields and are restricted to light armor. Assassins are a nice thematic choice for your party, especially if you are into writing up backgrounds for your characters. I think it'd be a pretty cool little addition to add, and definitely can have some, some of those moments in your head where you can kind of imagine that assassin type in your party, failing, for example, to sneak around, or maybe getting in that nice extra hit there every once in a while to kind of finish up the enemy. Next up, we have the Fire Elf class. Now, Fire Elves do add their full level to melee attacks and are prohibited from using ranged weaponry. So a little different than the elves there. They cannot read scrolls, books, or cast any magic other than Fireball, which they automatically have on creation. They can only on the first turn of every combat cast Fireball for free. If they fail their roll on this, it will damage the Fire Elf and potentially other party members. They can use any melee weapon of their choice. Two-handed weapons do incur a half level of roll penalty. They can use shields and light armor, and they are allowed to use heavy armor, but receive double damage of sorts if they fail their spellcasting roll. Something to do with the heat from the fireball heating up their armor. The fire damage every turn for free, I think, is pretty nice, but it can feel a little bit like a one-trick character to me. So this is probably, out of all the characters that are included here, it's probably the one that's less interesting to me, just because it's just going to be all about that, really just that fireball in that first turn. We also have Harlequins. Harlequins are our next new class, and they're definitely unique in their abilities. They can wield or juggle, if you will, up to 3 weapons at a time. They must be light or one-handed weapons. They do not add any level bonuses to their combat rolls. They do, however, get 3 attacks per turn when wielding 3 weapons. When wielding 1 weapon, light or one-handed, they get half level bonus to their attack roll. They can pick locks and disarm traps like rogues, but without any of the bonuses to the checks for these that you might see with rogues. They can't use shields, and they are restricted to light armor, and they also add half their level to their defense rolls, which is nice. Having 3 attacks with multiple weapon types, especially if those weapons offer bonuses of their own, is crazy. Having the ability to pick locks and disarm traps, even without that bonus, is a nice plus. A little bit of an oddity here is the new character class, Lutins. They add half level to attack rolls and they're full level to defense rolls, which is very nice. Lutins are spellcasters that can cast from a very select list of illusion type spells. They have a unique ability to enter a room ahead of the party and attempt to steal loot from monsters. But if they fail, they have to fight the monsters on their own for a full round. So it's kind of dangerous there. They are small and cannot carry heavy items. Kind of in this way, Lutin's in a little bit of a way kind of remind me more of a thief or a treasure hunter type than a rogue, given that they can kind of scout out ahead and steal from the enemy, which is pretty neat. I'm always about the treasure hunting type characters, so that might be something that I might think about adding to my party for sure. As an alternative to the elf, as far as for ranged characters from the primary book, we have the Marksman. They don't get the advantage of spells that a traditional elf would offer. Again, they're not an elf, they are a marksman. Marksmen do add their full level +1, which is fairly rare at the time of this book's printing when using ranged weapons of any type. This includes guns as well. They do get to do a minimum of 2 wounds per enemy as they add a wound to their damage. When in an outdoor environment, they do get to make an extra free attack at the start of combat. So it just keeps getting better. They can also freely switch to a melee weapon in combat without losing their attack for the round. And I remember as an elf, there would be situations where it would go from range to melee, and that would not be great because I'd have to either use magic or I'd have to just switch. I'd have to lose my round and switch off. If you're not tracking ammo for your campaign, then I think I can safely say that these range bonuses, alongside their expert skill levels, can definitely make up for or help to counter their lack of magical affinity there. They are restricted to light weapons and light armor, and they cannot wield shields. I think monks are our next edition. Like the dwarves offered up in this book, they have various types of monks. The different types of monks, like the monks of law or living weapons, offer different advantages in combat. They are also able to perform counter-strikes against boss-type monsters in combat at a -2 penalty when they fail their defense roll. Counterattacks have always been one of my favorite abilities for tactical games, so this is definitely a plus in my book. They can also begin learning a limited amount of expert skills starting as early as level 3. That's 3 levels earlier than other classes, or at least most other classes. There are some pretty large drawbacks, though, as they cannot carry valuables like gems, and they can't have more than 10 gold on them on their person at a time. They also cannot have more gold than anyone else in the party. They can't have more than 3 magical items at once. They also have an interesting leveling mechanic where they must fight another monk in order to level. So they have to have that one-on-one, like I think of like Hollywood-esque type, martial duel there in order to progress to that next level. They do have a very unique skill set as well. Every last skill that the monks can learn, including those from other books, are very much aligned with the theming of this class. These characters do drip so much with theme. Even their allowed weapon types are dependent on their style or devotion. Another new non-human class is added in the way of the Ogre Mercenary. Ogres deal 1 additional damage when using melee weapons, much like the marksman with their bow. They do only add half their level to attack rolls, however. They are able to carry any weight class of items, including petrified characters, with that out penalty, which is nice and makes perfect sense given they're, an ogre after all. They suffer a -1 range defense penalty whenever they're in a corridor. They also require 5 times more food than the average character, or they can end up going mad, which offers a whole new set of challenges. This is particularly an issue for those campaigns or books that require food in their rule set. They also have the same magical restrictions as barbarians in that they cannot carry or use those types of items. They are able to use all classes of melee weapons, but are barred from using ranged weaponry. They can use all armor types and shields, but the cost of those things is increased due to the fact that they have to be custom made for the ogre. While they may not have a variety of features that other classes have, they could definitely make for an interesting addition. I could see this class as one of those you might add if you wanted a bit of humor or a challenge to your game, or if you happen to be a big fan of ogres in general. Ogres, gotta love them. So moving on, we have the Wilderness Survival Guide. Wilderness guides are a light entry to this series as they are an incredibly basic class. They do have a very unique feature, however. They can act as a 5th party member. It is important to note that this does not take the place of other types of followers, such as a hireling. So with the right type of hireling, you could technically have a party of 6. But don't get too excited, as they don't have any major combat focus. Their skills are mainly for helping the party to explore in wilderness type environments, but the book is careful to explain that this does not take effect in demon worlds, such as the Courtship of Flower Demons or Four Against the Netherworld regions. They will allow rerolls in the normal wilderness environments, reroll of die rolls, and you can have an alternative version of the wilderness guide that is focused on demon worlds. So it's like quite the opposite, where it won't focus on the normal wilderness stuff. Instead, it's just focused on the demon world stuff there. But otherwise, they have no special skills. They do get access to the rogue expert level skills when they get to level 6. They also join your party as a 5th level character, so you're not going to be having them join as a 1st level character. They can only use light weapons and slings. They can use light armor and are capable of carrying a shield. Now, personally, if this is replacing one of my 4 core, I would say not worth it, just because of the wilderness bonus, because that's all they really have. But given that they're an extra character, I kind of see this as kind of outside of theming, maybe, that it's kind of a way of kind of balancing out the field a little bit if you think your things are getting a little too tough. But on the other hand, in some worlds it may be harder because you're having to consume more food. All right, so Elders are our last true class in the Concise Collection of Classes, with the exception of the various new dwarf types that we'll cover shortly. Elders, much like the Wilderness Survival Guides, can be taken on as a 5th level character in your party. The Elders' primary ability is that they can lend their skills or abilities, with some restrictions, to other party members or even other elders. They can also help other party members lend their skills to other party members, as long as the lending party member is willing to lose their ability to use that skill for the rest of the round, or for that round of combat. Not the whole combat, but for that round. Elders can even lend their skills to other elders. Conceptually, elders are meant to represent aged veteran adventurers or delvers who accompany you and give their advice to the party. Another cool ability of the elders is that, as they level, they can learn almost any expert skill level based on the class you choose for your elder in the Four Against the Abyss supplement. They cannot, however, learn any of those in this book. They, like the monk class, also start learning expert level skills starting at level 3. They do have some drawbacks. They tend to lead the party in marching order, which means that they are prone to taking damage. In addition, there are some damage types that will deduct health and a full level in damage. Level meaning that they lose a character level due to their old age and frailty. They cannot carry more than 200 gold, and they cannot wield or carry heavy equipment. When escaping from combat, there is also a chance that they will be left behind and killed by the monster or group that they're running from. You can only use light armor, light weapons, and slings, and they cannot use shields. As mentioned before, there are a couple of new weapons available in the supplement. The crossbow has been added. It is a +1 slashing range weapon. It takes a full combat action in order to reload. So this is a weapon that would be useful in the hands of, say, maybe an assassin. The final weapon that they've added is the Harquebus. It is also a ranged slashing weapon with a +3 modifier, which is a pretty nice bonus there. But this bonus comes with some serious caveats. It can only be used by dwarves, marksmen, warriors, and sentient golems. They can only be fired at the beginning of combat. It is also two-handed. On a roll of 1, the Harquebus will explode and damage the user for 1 die 3 damage. Obviously, once the weapon explodes, it will no longer be able to be used, though you can repair it in town for 15 gold. In addition, we're not done with the drawbacks. Every time the Harquebus is used, the party must roll for wandering monsters. If the roll produces wandering monsters, they will be encountered after the current combat engagement is finished. On the upside, you will be able to reload it before encountering the wandering monsters, so you can encounter the next group of wandering monsters after you finish this group off. Wonderful. Crazy stuff there. Alright, so on to the expert level skills. I'm briefly going to go over this because there's a lot of information here. There are a total of 16 new expert level skills. That's a decent clip. Of course, they are mostly here for new classes, but there are a good number of them that will benefit already existing classes as well. So even if you don't plan on using any of the new classes, which would be a shame, you can get some benefits from the new skills as well. All right, so it's time to talk about the new Dwarven class options. These new options take the traditional Dwarf class and modify it in a variety of ways. These are modified by your choice of, well, let's call them Dwarven clans. There are a total of 6 different clan choices, one of which is clanless, that will have special expert level skills associated with them. Much like the monk and the elder mentioned before, the special Dwarven clan classes can start learning these expert level skills starting at level 3. Every Dwarven clan has its own list of expert level skills that they have access to. There are also a few common expert level skills that are shared between all clans. This list is not as extensive as the normal expert level skills list, but I think it's important to remember that you also have the normal Dwarven skill list to choose from on top of these new clan-specific skills. I also think it's worth mentioning that the book goes into decent detail on the history of the dwarves and their clans for background. Of course, it also provides background for other topics, and this is a pretty large focus in this book, which is a very nice addition. On the topic of patrons, the Concise Collection of Classes has a total of 5 patrons that can be used by the various clans of dwarves. Most of the patrons are for specific clans and cannot be used except for those specific clans. One of the 5 can be used by all clans, however. The 4 patrons that are specific to the certain clans are actually characters that can join as one of your 4 members of your party. So it's not like the Elder or the Wilderness Survival Guide where it's a 5th character. This is going to be occupying one of your character slots. They are very unique and have some unique powers. If they're killed, they can no longer be used, so you won't be able to go back and get that specific type of patron and with their skills and their equipment and stuff. It's one and done. The 5th patron does give your party benefits earlier in their adventuring career, but at a cost. It's more of like a group that you can associate with rather than someone who joins your party. You can ignore the cost of these benefits at your own peril, as you will have bounty hunters sent after your party to collect. All right, so closing thoughts. Given its price point, it offers a lot of content in a pretty small package. It is definitely one of the first few supplements that I think should be heavily considered as a member of your Four Against Darkness collection. There are specifically some great classes and characters that can really help theme out your new party. The Assassin, Monk, and Harlequins are particularly interesting to me for a party, and I'm certainly glad to have it in my collection. So that's it for my review of the Concise Collection of Classes. Great book in a small package, and hopefully that helped you reach a decision yourself there. And certainly happy to hear your thoughts. And again, thank you.